It's my pleasure to introduce Rakesh Naidu. He's the CEO and president at the Windsor Essex Regional Chamber of Commerce. He is responsible for initiating and executing the strategy at the Chamber of Commerce to create economic prosperity in the region. Rakesh works closely with the members, leaders in the industry and different sector heads to identify and maximize potential in each sector. He facilitates activities with other Windsor Essex agencies, economic development organizations, and key stakeholders to ensure the broad level of support for new and existing companies and members. Rakesh is the founder of A-Works, a unique, on-demand, just-in-time recruiting platform. Rakesh has been a resident of Windsor Essex since 2004 and is extremely proud of the region. He is an ambassador of the Windsor Essex region. He takes immense pride in the intrinsic strengths and achievements and diversity of the region. Rakesh is a chemical engineer with a postgraduate diploma in business management. In the past, he has worked in environmental engineering and automotive firms. Rakesh is a volunteer teacher at the Art of Living Foundation. Welcome, Rakesh.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the warm welcome. Can you all hear me okay?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, what a beautiful beginning to the day. I have to say that, I'm seeing, though virtually, I would have loved to be there in person, but I can surely see that there is so much commitment and very happy and joyful people in that room. So whenever it's possible, next time I would love to be there in person. I also have to share some Rotary connection that I've had in the past. Many moons back, back in 2000, I was part of a group exchange, and I was sent by my Rotary district to Paris, and I spent 5 weeks there with many amazing Rotarians, and it was really a life-changing experience, to see Rotarians from 5 different clubs, the kind of work they do, the impact they had. It was an eye-opener, and my connections with Rotary goes from there. I still have a lot of Rotarian friends. My team lead from that trip to Paris is the incoming governor of his district in a state called Gujarat in India. It's a western part of India. So I keep in touch with him, and he's doing some amazing things there. And so are all of you. Rotarians are making a huge difference, and I'm really privileged to be here to share a few things. So I'm cognizant of the time I have. In my presentation, I'm going to be touching upon a few things, and I'll open it up to questions after that. But my intention this morning is to walk you through with what's really happening, globally, what's happening in Canada on the economic front, then bring it down to the Windsor Essex region, talk about a few things that are affecting us, with whether that is in the economy, whether that's real estate related, whether it's top issues that we are concerned with, and then talk a bit about what the chamber is doing, what are some of the issues we are working on. And then leave you with some information on some of the things that the chamber is working on in terms of events, and then open it up to any questions. So does that sound okay?
Perfect. Yeah.
All right. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. I have few slides, so I may go a little fast with that because I do want to keep it open for Q&A. But if at any point of time during the slide presentation, if you need me to pause or explain more, if you have a question, feel free to interrupt me. Okay, so okay, can you see my screen now?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. I'm going to see if the full screen option works here. If it doesn't, then I'll revert back to this way. Can you see the full screen now?
Yeah. No, but it's fine. We can still see it quite well.
Okay, all right. Well, then let's just continue in this mode. Okay, so as I was sharing that this is, where the world is going, not necessarily in a good place, but I want to really touch upon what IMF has been talking about, and they've been updating their forecast, on a regular basis. The October forecast, has pegged the global growth in 2022. When we end the year, it'll be about 3.2, which in hindsight doesn't look bad. But in 2023, they've brought it down to 2.7, and a lot of factors, as we all know. But we are still not yet fully out of COVID. There's still some remnant impact of COVID on businesses, and we'll talk a little bit more in the upcoming slides as well. But when it comes to the Canadian growth, they have brought it down to 1.5. Which is still not bad. And I hope that IMF is right there, because there are some other agencies, and there's a slide on this later in my presentation, where they have actually brought it down to the negative area. So I hope IMF is right, and I hope the others are wrong. But we have some headwinds coming up, and we'll talk more about that. And what are those headwinds? Well, one of the factor that is really creating those headwinds is the global uncertainty, which has been fueled by, unfortunately, the situation with Ukraine and Russia. And that's pulling down a lot of economies, not just the Canadian economy. Globally, there is a lot of challenges. And the challenges is spilling not only in the economic world, but also in areas which impacts all of us, which is inflation, food inflation especially. It is growing. There was a release of information that came out yesterday, where StatsCan has provided that information, and you must have seen that, though marginally better, but inflation is pretty high, and food inflation continues to be pretty high. And one of the things that's contributing is, the global grain production and its export has been significantly impacted. So that's having a cascading effect in many economies, and many countries have experienced significant increase in food related inflation. Also, one of the factors that is affecting the increase in terms of the operational cost for business is the energy cost. And we know that Russian gas exports has now been restricted. Many European countries are reducing their dependence on Russian gas, which increases the cost overall. And it hasn't helped that in the last few weeks, OPEC has cut down their oil production as well, which is again pumped the prices up, the gas prices up. So multiple factors, but yeah, we are all feeling the impact. Bank of Canada, when we bring it down to the Canadian outlook, it's talking about a softening of the economy, though it says that, we still remain positive, but definitely talking in terms of softening the economy or potentially slow down. Very few people are using the term recession, but I hear that term being used more than before now. And we'll talk more about that in terms of what's coming. Few things that many businesses have really experienced is labor and supply chain. These are the top issues. We had a roundtable just 2 days back with the 2 new MPPs in our area. Number one issue there. Roundtables with other businesses when we have number one issue is labor. Supply chain used to be the number one issue, but it's no longer that. It is labor shortage and not able to find labor, the skill shortage, and then also the wages that one has to pay to attract talent and retain talent. That has really gone up significantly. So so bottleneck related to supply chain and bottleneck related to labor availability, those were some of the things that businesses have been mentioning about. Our unemployment rate is coming down, though we still have a high unemployment rate, and I have a slide on that. I'll talk about it. But overall, it has come down. We hit a very high number a few months back. Canada hit a very high number a few months back, but it's moving in the right direction. So with everything that's going on, with what we've just come through with COVID and what we're experiencing currently, there are few organizations that have fared okay, few have not. But the small and medium-sized businesses are the ones that have struggled the most, as we all know. Small and medium-sized businesses make up 98% of all the businesses in Canada. And in Ontario, 64% of employment is in the small and medium-sized enterprise. So you can see that it's a very important group. SMEs are significant to any economy, especially small and medium-sized cities. They make a huge difference. And this is a small business week. We are celebrating small businesses, and we're providing a lot of different supports to them, and we need to, because they are the backbone of our economy. Unfortunately, a lot of small businesses, and you'll see this circle here, they all unfortunately had a negative growth, GDP losses, especially because of what happened over COVID. You will see these sectors such as accommodation and food services, business services, wholesale and retail trade. They all suffered during COVID, and this is no news. It's not news to anyone. A little bit better was agriculture and construction. They remained busy, but not by much. But we saw a significant decline in all of the other businesses, and there's significant number of people that are employed in these industries. And you can see this axis is the one that talks about higher percentage of employment in the business here, which is wholesale, business services, and accommodation and food services, which includes restaurants. So what's happening in terms of the various sectors? We can see that wholesale and retail trade is recovering, to some extent, and we are also now entering, holiday season, and we are hoping that there will be more, a better performance of this particular sector when it comes to retail. But accommodation and food services, business services, and other services, they still haven't yet caught up. You can see, as compared to February of 2020 or late 2019, we're still far away from where they used to be. My screen is frozen. Oh, there. Can you see that's the next screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So how are the small businesses faring? Many cost drivers, but the top three that have been identified is fuel and energy costs, as I mentioned earlier on, increase in wages. On an average, the wage increase is that businesses have said that they've experienced is 5%. Yesterday, I was with a good-sized manufacturer in a region. Company is from Germany, and they wanted to increase the salary, the annual salary, by 3.5% to address the challenges because of inflation. And this was, some few months back when the management took a decision to increase it by 3.5%. Yesterday, when I met the HR head, she mentioned that they're actually now going to increase it to 6%. And the reason is that they all are concerned about retaining talent. It's not easy to attract, but retaining is becoming a challenge as well. And they want to do everything possible to retain them, which includes offering higher wages. So that's putting a lot of pressure. Imagine small businesses who have to offer 6%. When their business volume is down, when they haven't really caught up with the 2019 numbers, when there are other inflationary pressures on them, it's not an easy time for them to offer 6% increases. And of course, borrowing costs has increased as well. As we all know, Bank of Canada has also indicated that there may be another hike of 50 basis point coming up. So most of us, feel that the worst is behind us, at least when it comes to inflation, and we're seeing a reduction in terms of or the lowering of inflation. At least the last three reported period, we've seen that come down, which is a good sign, though not by much. This the latest data that we received, inflation is 6.9, so it's marginally come down. There's some that are saying, well, it should have come down more, and since it has not, we may expect an increase in the borrowing cost. So that's what one can expect, that there may be potentially an increase because it hasn't cooled down to the extent that we would have wanted it to. But the forecast, and especially from Desjardins, is that by 2023 it should really start coming down, and we should head back to the region that we are very comfortable with, in somewhere in the 2% range. Now, this is where we're seeing the inflation head. It's not just a Canadian thing. You can see the blue line there is the US inflation. It's actually hovering higher than us, and typically Canada and US follow the same trajectory. Unfortunately here, though, we did have a reduction overall of inflation, but food related inflation actually increased, and it is 11.4, though it has come down from the historical high that we experienced in the last 2.5 years, but it is still 11.4%, which is very, very high, and we haven't seen this kind of increase since 1981.
I didn't understand that.
I'm so sorry. Let me put this. So that is going to create more challenges, especially for people in the lower strata of the socioeconomic scale. Okay, so IMF was the first slide I showed, where they were talking about 2023, where we may end up with 1.5%. In Ontario, the economic outlook doesn't look as good. 2022, the expectation is that we will end up with 2.9, but at least this group is saying that we are heading into recession. So come 2023, you can see where we'll be in the negative territory. So one of the things I mentioned about the top issues, of course, with workforce shortage, supply chain is a significant one. A lot of businesses are experiencing higher costs because of that, and a lot of businesses are doing something or trying to address that. And I want to talk about this because this is really having a significant impact on overall cost of doing business. But here's what few of the business respondents came back and said what they're doing. One is they're partnering with new suppliers. So it's a good and bad news for us, because we do supply a lot, and we supply a lot to our American friends and American businesses, and we know that some of our American friends have gone away and they've looked for new suppliers, especially when we had the restrictions at the border, when we had the bridge blockade. We unfortunately have received information about a significant number of businesses that have dealt with us for decades, having to move away and find some local partners there. So not so good news from that perspective, being a border town, but there are businesses here that have looked at finding new partners and reducing the cost. And I would like to draw your attention to one data here, which is shift to local suppliers. So 15% of respondents said that they're looking to source from local suppliers, which is a good news. There's been, over COVID, there's been a lot of focus on supporting local companies. The chamber had a huge program on shop local and support local. And we know that throughout Canada and other countries as well, there's been a lot of impetus now to find your business partner that's local, to really find suppliers that are local. And it's having an impact. 15% saying that they wanted to shift to local suppliers is a huge number. It used to be somewhere between 6.5% to 7% earlier, and Canada being a very exporting and trading country, we've looked at suppliers from all over the world, but we're seeing more and more local suppliers coming into the fray. Now I want to bring it down to what's happening in our region, the Windsor Essex region. Our region, thankfully, is bucking a trend here where many smaller, medium-sized cities and regions are not seeing a growth in population. But for the last 22 months, we've consistently added more people to our population. Every month, we get more people either immigrating or migrating into Windsor Essex. Now, remember, we did have a slowdown of immigrants because of COVID-related restrictions. There's still 1.2 million people who have approved to come into Canada. They have not yet landed in Canada as permanent residents, so we'll expect at least a decent number from that to find their way into Windsor Essex. So this number should grow. So that's the positive side. Our population growth is having, and that's not happened in many decades. But the last 22 months has been a good thing for us. Unfortunately, our labor numbers, our unemployment numbers are very high. And you see Ontario is 5.8, Canada is 5.2, Windsor CMS is 8.6. Now, you would wonder why that is, because there is still a lot of opportunities. There's still a lot of businesses that are saying that we need to find people, and that's where the disconnect is. A lot of businesses looking for talent, not able to find talent, and then we have a high unemployment. Now, one of the factors that does influence this is that supply chain disruption, and that's why I had that as one of the top issues impacting business. So supply chain related disruptions has shut down many factories, including our Stellantis assembly plant. And there's directly there's about 5,000 people in that, and indirectly in the supply chain it can be times 7. So there is a significant number of people that have been impacted because of supply chain disruptions, because of shifts being cancelled and so on. So that number, because we are so heavy when it comes to manufacturing sectors impact on our economy and the job numbers, we get affected more when these kind of disruption, especially in the manufacturing sector, happens. In spite of that, one really good news here is that look what we have done in the region in spite of the headwinds, in spite of the challenges. Stats can report it that our region, the Windsor CMA region, has experienced the highest business growth throughout Canada. And this hasn't happened, at least in my memory, since I've been working with economic development in the chamber in the last, I would say 15 years. I haven't seen that. And I don't think this has happened in a long time before that. So that's a good news, which shows that we are heading in the right direction. Now, had it not been for the global issues, the macro issues that is affecting the world, I think we would have been in a very good place. But it gives me hope that once things stabilize, once there's a reset internationally, I think we will be one of the ones that will lead up really fast in terms of recovery. Real estate, I think all of us know what the story's been. It really peaked in March of 2022, and the sale price went up to 723. There's been a reset there, slowing down, whatever you want to call it, making, or it's more realistic in terms of numbers and affordability. It's come down to 520. Transactions have also come down. But here locally in Windsor Essex, sales are down 41.9%, so close to 42% from the same time last year. And the average price as compared to last year is down by roughly about 5%. So I think this is something that all of us know what's happening in the real estate market. Now, what we also did is, because this is an important time in municipal politics. There's election coming up. We all want to make sure that we're electing the right representatives. Whether it's mayors, deputy mayors, councillors. So we wanted to make sure that our issues are highlighted. So the chamber went out and polled a lot of business owners, a lot of chamber members, and we talked about what are some of the issues that are top. So the ones that we got, we wanted the top 3, but we got top 4: housing affordability, poverty reduction, homelessness, municipal taxes and spending, and infrastructure. These are the ones that people said, these are the top issues which we would like them to be addressed. And in terms of sector, the top 3 sectors are healthcare. Obviously, we're coming out from COVID. We still have a lot of challenges. We know, how the hospitals are really struggling to keep the ER open, and beds are being occupied. We recently had code black because of ambulances not being available. So it's a concern. Automotive and manufacturing continues to be a sector that we are very strong in, but there's so many opportunities coming up. There's been investments that have been made, the battery plant with $5.2 billion investment, and the supply chain that will come with it. So there's a lot of interest in ensuring that we remain very relevant to this sector and we take leadership, continue to take leadership in the sector. Construction and development, housing shortage, housing affordability is tied to this because there's need for more inventory here, and there is also a lot of demand when it comes to employees. So these sectors, and of course agribusiness, especially because of inflation related to food. So those are the sectors that people have identified as top sectors. In terms of what are some of the top issues that this region is dealing with, that the chamber is working on, and let me know how much more time I have. I'll quickly go through the slides. Can somebody tell me how much time more I'm left with?
About 3 minutes.
Okay. So border reopening, we know that we had issues with ArriveCAN, but it's been addressed now. Supply chain, we talked about. Workforce, the unavailability of the right talent, inflation, wage increase, affordable housing, healthcare, we talked about. Debt, SEBA, because come 2023, those businesses that have taken, have received the funding, the grant, and the repayable loan, that will have to be repaid, and that's creating some anxiety in the market and amongst businesses. EV industry and incentives, and remote workers. The benefit of having remote workers, but also the challenges, because when you have people working remotely, a lot of businesses rely on them, especially in the downtown cores. They are suffering because of less foot traffic. Very quickly, Chamber has been growing in spite of the COVID. We've had over the last 2 years of COVID, we've grown, we've added more members, which is a great sign. There are not too many chambers in Canada that have had this kind of result. I think we are only 1 or 2% of chambers that has grown, and our retention number has gone up, which shows that people are appreciating what the chamber is doing. Some of the issues, we have been very, very, actively involved in advocating for businesses. These are some of the top issues that we have been advocating for. And we've done about 176 total media interviews. In a normal year, the chamber would be interviewed between 20 to 25 times. But look at this number, this is significantly more. Also, there was a need for that. Some of the topics was that we're currently advocating on is extending EI supports, ending the border blockade that we were very much heavily involved in, ArriveCAN and border restrictions, and trucking and transportation, and supporting this industry. And we took a resolution to the OCC, which is Ontario Chamber of Commerce AGM, and we received with 95% vote. I'm also pleased to share here is that the Chamber of Commerce received the Outstanding Advocacy Award from all chambers in Ontario. There's about 176 of them, and we received the award for being the best in terms of advocating for businesses. So very proud of that, proud of the wonderful people I work with. This is a program that I'm going to leave this, and I'm happy to share this slide with you. This is a digital adoption program for a lot of businesses. You can get up to $2,500 for digital adoption and digitization of your business. The Chamber is offering that in partnership with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. There is information on this on our website. We continue to offer the Support Local program, which is the one where we are encouraging people to ship, shop, and dine, but keep the focus on local business, especially because this is going to be a busy holiday season, and we want to make sure that our local businesses benefit from it. This is the largest campaign in a 145-year history. Now, just last couple of slides, looking forward, what's happening, municipal elections, very important for us to go out and vote, but also get the candidates to really address some of our top issues. Border restrictions have ended, we're happy about that, but still we haven't seen the numbers of visitors and businesses come back. So there are some challenges, and we're working on that. We need to really have a great campaign, to bring the information, or to make them aware of that, the restrictions are gone, and make it easier for them to come back and do business with us. EV battery plant, that the announcement that we had, it's the largest announcement in the auto industry in Canada, and there's a lot of opportunities to come in the supply chain. Our region will definitely benefit from it, not just the Windsor Essex region, but out to the southwestern Ontario as well. municipal budget is coming closer. It's the end of the year, and we'll make sure that some of the issues that businesses have highlighted is part of that. We are also advocating highly for a small business subclass for property tax, so that the total tax that small business are paying can be lowered. And we have a proposal that will be going into the county as well as the city of Windsor. And unfortunately, economic slowdown, I think we need to, be ready for that. Some people are not using the R word, the recession word, but I think we're getting close to that. Upcoming
Rakesh,
chamber
we have to
events.
wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to wrap it up.
Yeah, so just upcoming chambers, very happy, and this was my happy note, when we presented the Lifetime Achievement Award to our wonderful Jennifer Jones, and it was a great event. And that's it. Rapid test kits, if anybody needs, we still are offering it free at the chamber. I want to make sure that everyone uses that and keeps everyone safe. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right.
On behalf of our club, thank you very much. Obviously, your presentation was well researched, and thank you very, very much for such a presentation.
You're welcome.
Sorry, we kind of ran out of time for questions, Rakesh, but if anybody does have any questions, you can contact him at the chamber and get answers. We have.
Thanks so much. I'll take your leave. I want to wish everyone a great day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being
Okay,
here.
see you, Rakesh.
Bye-bye.